Who would have known that this computer science major and former captain of Harvard's fencing team would one day co-found one of the world's best-known online travel businesses? Under his guidance, the company's portfolio now includes more than 20 travel media brands and operates in nearly 50 markets. Please welcome the president and CEO of TripAdvisor, Steve Kaufer. So Steve, hi.
Hi there.
So you are always, in your company, always in some sort of metamorphosis lately.
It's an evolving space.
An evolving space for sure. And I say over the years, TripAdvisor has gone through some pivots. A review site and a meta and PPC, PPA, kind of pulling back, going back to PPC.
The job has never been boring, let me tell you.
Never been boring. So do you feel like you're always on a journey?
Yeah, absolutely. But I'd really not want it any other way. It's been quite a few years. The travel industry has changed quite a bit. TripAdvisor has wanted to change along with it, lead in some cases, drive forward in others. It's a great journey.
Right. So do you, like when you take risks and you do pivots, is it, some of it's gut? Is a lot of science involved? How does it go?
Oh, that's a tough question. I mean, there's a little bit of everything that goes into it, right? Some is you're watching really closely what the market is doing. You're listening as hard as you can to your customers in terms of what they want next. You can't always act upon it, but you keep it in mind, and then when the time is right, you dive in. So we went from a click off to a meta model. We were probably late in that transition, but we made it full stop, and it works great for us now. We went from a review site to a site that really helps not just pick the hotel, but find you the best price for that property. That's another big change for us that our travelers are slowly getting used to.
Okay. I want to talk about that a bit.
Okay.
So last year when Adam was here, talked about, still was thinking that instant booking would take off, so being patient with it. And so now, thinking about that decision and pulling back, would you say that it was an issue with consumer perception or a business model issue?
Look, in the Instant Book product that we have live on the site today, it's a nice product. It's super convenient to be able to book through that process, especially when we have a great price, especially when you're on the small screen phone. But what consumers were telling us is, hey, that's nice, but it's not compelling enough to make me change my habits from where I used to book. And they kind of spoke with their fingers, with their clicks. So rather than press harder in that angle, we're like, well, what do consumers want first and foremost? The best price on the best property. So how can we use Instant Book to showcase even better prices? How can we make sure consumers are finding not just the most popular hotel in a city, but the best value hotel in a city? So that's, as people talk about Instant Book a lot, a bigger change on TripAdvisor is how we choose to offer hotels in any city to any individual. And the sort order has changed a lot. Not because it's, there was nothing wrong with it before, but it's way better for a consumer to find what they're looking for.
So with the business model shift, there has been a softness in the hotel space. And some of this is a good thing because you're seeing non-hotel growing, which I know is part of your strategy. But some of it isn't so great. So I guess a question, and particularly in light of what we saw this week with the stock prices, and you guys, and Expedia Priceline when third quarter earnings, and we saw, it was an interesting week. And is there an issue with the runway for hotels, or is?
Oh, we don't think so at all. If you look at the 400 million plus unique visitors a month we have on the site, if you just go down to hotel shoppers at 165 million a month, demand is not really our biggest challenge right now. We have a lot. We have a lot of travelers that are very much up funnel. They're still trying to figure out, do they want to go here or there? And if it's there, where do they want to stay? They're not quite ready to book. That's always been our history. We love it, right? We have often a first touch at that traveler. How do we do a better job pulling them down the funnel so that we can land them at the property that's really best for them? And then when they're ready to book, which may not be this session, how are we persuading them or educating them that they should come back to find the latest price to then click off to one of our great partners that'll handle the transaction?
Yeah. So plenty of hotel shoppers, plenty of runway, just getting them
Certainly
to
for
the funnel
TripAdvisor, and I'm
converting.
a complete believer that the ongoing transition from offline to online still leaves plenty of headroom for everyone in the hotel space.
Okay. All right, so another, I think, very interesting move for TripAdvisor in terms of the new navigation, and I guess you introduced around June, is the date search. You know, everyone is so used to, and of course we all, you know, let's face it, we all are very used to using TripAdvisor on that top and that middle of the funnel. You know, it's where we go, and we don't always think about it. One of the issues, I guess, perhaps with interest booking is we may not always think about it at the bottom of the funnel. So now with this new interface, you really want to drive that traveler or attract that traveler who's actually thinking about specific dates. So kind of a real different spin from, oh, I want to compare hotels because you know, it's going to be this one or that brand, or, oh, I want to read about a destination because I want to know what to do when I get there. So this is kind of a really kind of different, I would say, different move for TripAdvisor.
A different implementation, but when you think about how a traveler wants to pick a property, price is always important. And so if on TripAdvisor they're finding, hey, this is a great property and this one not so much, without knowing what the price is going to be for their time of stay, that's an incomplete decision. That's what consumers told us. Hey, it's with your sort order, TripAdvisor, you're often putting really expensive properties at the top of the list. That's nice, eye candy, but it's not something that I, as a traveler, am going to go book. So by asking for the dates way up front, we're already helping to qualify and make our recommendations better. Because price next to quality is what's going to appear at the top of our best value sort. And we know statistically, or we know from our A/B testing, consumers like that better.
Yeah. So I was going to ask, how many of your visitors are ready to put those dates in?
Well, whether you come in on our homepage or whether you come in sideways, we're opening up a date picker because we know we need your dates in order to show you the best properties at that time of stay. So to some degree, everyone in the hotel path is seeing prices or is seeing a dated shop.
Okay. So to back that up and to kind of change the perception that to be price and convenience versus just reviews and content in general, you've launched a TV campaign as well.
Indeed.
And this has been a little bit of a shift, so taking some of the funds from SEM and putting that into television, correct?
Right.
So it's a shift. So what drove that thinking, and how is it working out for you? Because if that's been a few months?
Right, so we launched in some markets in the middle of June, then expanded over the course of the summer. And we've told folks, hey, you know, expect this to continue. One of the best ways to help travelers be successful using TripAdvisor is to pull them down the funnel so that they can actually get closer to finishing that booking. But if they don't know that they can do that on TripAdvisor, we're not really able to help in that part of the equation. TV ads, what do they talk about? They talk about helping saving money for travelers. We'll shop the whole web for you. That's a real big value proposition, saving consumers the time from going to site A, B, C, D. Right, you can do it all on TripAdvisor in addition to all of those reviews. Put that on one site and one app, and that's TripAdvisor. And it boggles my mind that so many people did not know that they could do price comparison on our site, even though it's pretty plain when I look at it. So television helps that. Is it working? Yeah. I mean, we see traffic to the homepage. We see different behaviors of people coming to the homepage, being more engaged in the price comparison. and but we're smart enough to know it's not a instant turn on.
So spending, what, about 80 million?
Yeah, I think we said 60, 80 million this year and more next year.
And have you been able to evaluate the television shopper? Like, are they more likely to convert?
Yes, that's exactly what we look at. How many people say they came to TripAdvisor because they saw an ad? How is that behavior different than our average traveler? And of course, it's kind of what you'd expect. Now, we'd love everyone to immediately get the notion that we do price comparison, whether you see a TV ad once or 10 times, but it does take time to build, and we're pleased with the progress.
Sorry, I have to ask you this. Can the owl compete with the Trivago guy?
I'd say they're quite different, aren't they? So, look, for us,
cuter.
it's not it's a fair question in the sense we're not trying to build awareness of TripAdvisor. We're blessed with having a brand with tremendous aided awareness almost around the entire globe. Our challenge is different than what some other companies have had to do to build a brand. Ours is to be able to move the brand further down funnel. So you think of TripAdvisor for hotels, for flights, for restaurants, for attractions. It's really that full trip, which is magical in all the stuff that we can do, but a lot of the commerce, a lot of the money is made in that hotel piece for price comparison, which is a piece that we don't rank as well as we want to rank on.
Steve and Lorraine, we've got a question from the floor.
Hi, my name is Andrea. I'm with the Washington Post. My question involves a recent controversy about reviews about a Mexican resort dealing with rape and attacks that were deleted. And I wanted to know your comments on that and also how you plan to restore the public's faith that they're getting the full picture of a certain resort and hotel.
Sure. So we had first off, the events that, of course, anyone that has a vacation as described in some of those reports, feel terrible for. It's just a horrible experience all around. We had a policy when we launched the site that said, our forums and our reviews should be G-rated. It should be readable by my 10-year-old. And when this one particular assault story was being reported, it was during that time frame, and the report was pulled down because it didn't meet that criteria. When you look at, or we looked at it several years ago and said, things evolve and that's too restrictive. And so we went ahead, changed the policy so that, assault cases, other just horrible vacation stories are posted in their entirety on TripAdvisor. We still have some challenge in explaining that to the world, that this policy first did exist and then was changed several years ago, and that folks who are able to describe what happened in a first-hand account, those get published. And anyone can go on the site now and see, can do a search on TripAdvisor and find, really unfortunate, horrible travel stories. We don't censor them. We will reject a review if it contains hearsay, if it's talking about what they've heard from other sources, because that's not the reliable information that we want travelers to know. We want travelers to know what happened to you as an experience. And even if that's a horrible, terrible experience, like was reported in the media, we want that review on TripAdvisor. We have thousands of them on the site now, and we encourage folks that have those stories to please share your experience, your wisdom, so that future travelers can learn from that.
Steve, I'd like to just ask a question from the floor. Just going back to some of the topics on hotels and also performance marketing. So in the earnings calls of Priceline and Expedia, we got indications that they're looking at pulling back a bit from performance marketing spend. So I don't think they really name names, but obviously, Trip is a big player in that arena. Why are they pulling back from meta search and performance marketing in general? And what's happening at TripAdvisor? Why are they presumably pulling back from you?
Look, we have, we believe, very good relationships with all of our clients. They enjoy the traffic that we send to them because they're qualified shoppers that turn into transactions. So I'm not aware of anything specifically against TripAdvisor. Why would there be? But there has been a pullback on performance marketing. Hey, as Lorraine just said, I'm one of the folks that's pulled back a bit on some performance marketing in order to invest in our TV channel because we want to build up our brand and educate our travelers that they should be thinking of us as a price comparison site. Presumably others, who you can ask after me, might have the same answer, but I can't speak for them.
And why are you seeing, I guess, a lower ROI on those same performance channels? What's happening there?
I'm not necessarily seeing a lower ROI on those performance channels. I'm choosing to reallocate some of my marketing dollars to a channel that I think will have a longer lasting benefit than the immediate performance marketing. And that has an immediate revenue impact for us as we pull back on that channel that delivers today's revenue while we invest in something like TV that doesn't deliver today's revenue, delivers a little bit of this quarter, some more of next year, and more beyond. So, it's a short-term versus a long-term investment question.
We've got another question over here.
So Steve, we see a change in the marketplace with Snap and Instagram and how stories and pictures and videos are really the new way of communicating. You basically are still a text-based review site. How do you see yourself evolving considering that trend?
So I'd break it into the visual versus the social piece of it. In terms of visual, we still have tens of millions of candid photos. We've added panoramas, 360 views of properties, perhaps walkthroughs, and that's better than kind of anyone. I can't say everyone, but it is certainly leading in the category in terms of a visual representation of your hotel. In the restaurants, we created storyboards where we're stitching together beautiful photos to entice you visually that this is a great place to eat. When we think of social, the Snap or the Facebook, we have a phenomenally large community that's already sharing on TripAdvisor in the way they did 10 years ago. So I kind of agree with you from a social sharing perspective. We haven't made a meaningful leap forward to tap our community to both spread their TripAdvisor stories as well as kind of share the wisdom of what they found on our site, or even just very selfishly to share their own vacation stories on our platform in a way other than a review or a candid photo. And I would tend to agree that's an area where we should and we'd like to think we will be doing better at in the years to come.
So Steve, your non-hotel revenue is now, I think for the last quarter, was almost around 30%. Is that a good thing? Is that what you want? And that's restaurants, activities, vacation rentals?
So part of building that whole infrastructure or that whole trip life cycle is some amazing growth in our restaurants and attractions business. So we bought into this, well, we have a ton of traffic already from the core TripAdvisor basic model. And then 3 years ago, we planted a couple of seeds with some acquisitions that have turned out really nicely for us. First, we invest, and we told everyone we would do this because we take the long view. We invested in our restaurant footprint in Europe and Australia and Brazil. We invested in attractions globally, taking a curated attraction model to a marketplace. I think we've grown supply 5x or 6x from when we bought it. Meaningful growth. And 3 years later, wow, they're doing really nicely, profitable, and growing very quickly. So if you look and say, hey, how do I feel about stupendous growth in these two new categories? That's great. Who could possibly object? Get hotels to match it?
Left out home rentals on that one.
Rentals is a really tough one. We have a good product that addresses some of the need for an alternative accommodation for someone who's already on TripAdvisor or some of our other points of sale. But there's another kind of leader in that category that's kind of running away with alternative accommodations in general. And so do we feel like we can beat them? No. So we want to offer a great product for our travelers, but it's not a category where we are investing to be number one.
Okay.
Look at our attractions business. We're investing
Let's
to be
talk
number
about
we
where you
are
are number one. Right. So Viator, when you mentioned excellent acquisitions that you made, the Viator brand, what are the plans in terms of integrating Viator into TripAdvisor, or are you going to continue to invest in the Viator brand as kind of an independent brand?
Well, we are continuing to invest in Viator as an independent brand. The growth in the TripAdvisor attractions category, people that just like, hey, I got to figure out what I'm going to do when I'm in City X, is naturally going to TripAdvisor. Our brand strength continues to grow for in-destination and for almost all things travel, as evidenced by our unique user growth, our app growth. We've now integrated almost all of the Viator supply into the TripAdvisor site, so you don't have to pop around between sites, but there's plenty of traffic and growing traffic going to the Viator points of sale, and the white labels and affiliates and other partnership programs. Travel agencies can book and get commission on Viator bookings. So as a standalone brand, it's got plenty of legs.
And then what needs to happen to invest in the technology behind Viator? You know, being out there early, right? It could use to be a little more bookable and more mobile, and also perhaps to have more product that is booked at the destination. So what are some of the plans there?
There's a lot of heavy lifting in terms of connectivity with not just the big suppliers, but the plethora of small ones. If you look, TripAdvisor has 500,000 things to do, anywhere from a park to a guided tour to a whole bunch of different products for ways to see the Vatican or something. So lots of as I say, heavy lifting to connect the supply so that it can all be seamless from the consumer perspective. Because I want to be able to arrive in a destination, be able to book the tour, be able to book the ticket, walk up, show my phone, and breeze right in. And that's real. It's not hard to do for 3 attractions. It's really hard to do for 3,000. But that's where the world's going. We're going to be leading there.
So where do you see TripAdvisor 3 years from now?
We look at kind of what's the next set of traveler problems that we want to help solve. And one is certainly still give me a great experience treating me as an individual in my travel planning process. So unfortunately, TripAdvisor is still not personalized enough, given how much we know about individuals, to naturally be presenting the right hotel, to naturally be presenting, and here are the things to do when you get there that are going to really make that trip spectacular. Here's a couple of great restaurant suggestions along the way. Here's a nice way to share your trip. When you're on your trip with your friends still at home, people do like to share. Cycle it all back, and that flywheel of, I had a great time planning, I booked what I needed to book in advance, I booked what I need to book when I'm in destination, I'm writing my reviews, sharing my process, sharing my trip, inviting other friends, and that flywheel continues. And I mean, I think we're at a 30% year-on-year growth in the amount of content we have. So it's already working, but we know we can do so much more.
Right. And then where do we see Steve Kaufer?
I was reflecting earlier that, I have been 17 years in this job, but without a single day where I thought, wow, this is getting boring. So I look and say, what's in it for me? It's the challenge to figure all this out in so many different markets, now in so many different categories, that so long as personally I'm stretched to figure out how to better solve these problems, I'm thrilled with the job.
That's good. Still a lot of runway left for TripAdvisor, that's for sure. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Kaufer.
Choose Wyndham Vacation Rentals for your next vacation. As the world's largest professional manager of vacation rental properties, we bring you a unique collection of accommodations throughout the world. give yourself a hassle-free experience with a brand you can trust. Wyndham Vacation Rentals, a better way to get away.